Hash a Christmas wish. The snow fell gently outside the tall windows of St. Mary's Cathedral, each flake catching the warm light that streamed through the stained glass. Inside, the ancient stone walls held the soft murmur of voices and the gentle echo of footsteps on wooden floors. Christmas Eve service had just ended, and families were slowly making their way toward the exits, bundled in winter coats and scarves. Marcus Wellington sat alone in the third pew from the front, his expensive charcoal coat draped over his broad shoulders. At 35, he was one of the youngest CEOs in the city, having built his technology company from nothing into an empire worth millions. But success, he had learned, could be a very lonely companion. He watched the families around him with a mixture of longing and detachment. Fathers lifted sleepy children onto their shoulders. Mothers adjusted tiny mittens and whispered gentle reminders about saying goodbye to friends. The warmth of their connections felt foreign to him, like watching life through a window he could never open. Marcus had come to the cathedral tonight not out of faith, but out of habit. His grandmother had brought him here as a child, before the business deals and board meetings had consumed his world. Before he had built walls so high that no one could climb them. As the crowd thinned, he prepared to leave. Outside, his driver would be waiting with the engine running, ready to take him back to his empty penthouse apartment. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, which he would spend alone with his laptop and quarterly reports. But as he stood to go, a small voice stopped him. "Mr." Marcus turned to see a little girl standing in the aisle beside his pew. She couldn't have been more than 4 years old, with curly blonde hair that caught the light like spun gold and bright blue eyes that held an innocence he had almost forgotten existed. She wore a deep red velvet dress that was clearly her finest outfit, though it was slightly wrinkled from the long service. "Yes," Marcus said, his voice gentler than it had been in years. The little girl looked up at him with complete trust, the way children do when they haven't yet learned that the world can be cruel. "You look sad," she said simply. "Are you lonely too?" The question caught Marcus off guard. In his world of corporate negotiations and strategic planning, no one ever asked such direct, honest questions. "I suppose I am," he admitted, surprising himself with his honesty. "Me too," the little girl said, moving closer to him. "I'm Emma. What's your name?" "Marcus," he replied, finding himself crouching down to her eye level without thinking about it. Emma studied his face with the serious concentration that only children possess. "Do you have a family, Marcus?" The question hit him like a physical blow. "No," he said quietly. "I don't." "Neither do I," Emma said, matter-of-factly. "Well, I have Mama Sarah, but she's not my real mama. She takes care of lots of kids like me at the children's home. But I don't have a papa." Marcus felt something shift inside his chest, like ice beginning to thaw. "Where is Mama Sarah now?" Emma pointed toward the back of the cathedral, where a woman in her 50s was speaking with the pastor. "She's talking to Father Michael about the Christmas dinner tomorrow. We're all going to eat together, but..." Emma's voice grew smaller. "But I won't have a papa there either. All the other kids talk about their papas, even the ones who don't live with them anymore. But I never had one." The cathedral had grown quiet around them, with only a few people remaining. The snow outside continued to fall, creating a soft blanket of white that muffled the sounds of the city beyond. Marcus found himself sitting back down in the pew, and Emma climbed up beside him without invitation. She was so small that her feet didn't touch the floor, and she swung them gently back and forth. "What do papas do?" Emma asked, looking up at him with those trusting blue eyes. Marcus thought for a moment. His own father had died when he was young, and his memories were fragments of warmth and safety. They make sure you're not scared," he said slowly. "They read bedtime stories. They teach you things. And they love you no matter what." Emma nodded solemnly, as if storing this information away. "That sounds nice," she said. Then, with the boldness that only belongs to children, she reached out and took his large hand in her tiny one. The gesture was so simple, so innocent, yet it shattered something in Marcus that had been frozen for years. He looked down at their joined hands, his, calloused from years of stress and isolation, hers soft and warm and completely trusting. "Marcus," Emma's voice was very quiet now. "Yes, I don't have a papa," she said, her blue eyes filling with tears she was trying hard not to shed. Can you be my daddy forever?" The words hung in the air between them like a prayer. Marcus felt his heart breaking and healing at the same time. Here was this small person, offering him everything she had, her trust, her love, her hope, with no guarantee of anything in return. He thought of his empty apartment, his meaningless meetings, his life built on success but devoid of purpose. Then he looked at Emma, who was waiting for his answer with the patience that children show when asking for something that matters more than the world. "Emma," he said softly, "I think I'd like that very much." Her face lit up like the stained glass windows around them. "Really, really," Marcus said, and for the first time in years, he meant something with his whole heart. Emma threw her arms around his neck, and Marcus held her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and the trust she offered so freely. Over her shoulder, he saw Mama Sarah approaching, having finished her conversation with the pastor. When Sarah reached them, she looked at Marcus with the wisdom of someone who had spent years caring for children who needed families. "I'm Marcus Wellington," he said, standing but keeping Emma's hand in his. "And I think Emma and I need to have a conversation about Christmas wishes coming true." Sarah smiled, the kind of smile that said she had witnessed miracles before. "I think," she said gently, "that might be exactly what both of you need." Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside the cathedral, something had shifted. A lonely man and a little girl without a papa had found each other in the space between one breath and the next. And for the first time in years, Marcus Wellington wasn't thinking about quarterly reports or board meetings. He was thinking about bedtime stories, and Christmas mornings, and the sound of little feet running through a house that would finally, truly, be a home.